Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. We are here for part 5, Obi-Wan Kenobi. 1 week away from the series finale. I rewatched the trailer, the second one, and it said the 6-part event. So in my mind, this should just be a miniseries. Even though I feel like this needs 3 more episodes after this episode. But hey, who knows?
Maybe so much is about to happen.
Everything's gonna change. And you know, I honestly hope for that. I really, really hope for that. But
and to the audience at home who may be wondering, why is Tim talking more sultry than usual? Well, the answer is I'm keeping it low because I'm visiting people on the East Coast, and my friend's sleeping in his room on that side of things. He usually sleeps pretty heavy, but I'm just trying to, make sure he stays down.
I hope there's a really bad moment in this episode that just pisses you off, and you're like, what the? Or there's an amazing moment where you go, what the?
It'll all be visual.
Let's do this. Part 5. 3, 2. Obi-Wan.
This almost looks like a matte painting.
Yeah.
We went back.
Oh my God. We're getting flashback. Oh my God. Okay, I've been wanting this.
It's like maybe because I've seen episode 3 so many times, like I can tell he's older in this, but I almost don't care.
Yeah.
Because like
it's same here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. Oh.
That was very short.
Didn't I say? Like, what if we get his? Ooh. There's a little bit of Anakin in him. There's always been a sliver of Anakin in him.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So is that all she wanted this whole time? That's like what I
don't-
want to know here.
Yeah.
That is
It's still
what
yet
I
to be
want to know.
seen.
It almost feels like they're kind of leaning into the Holocaust allegory here. Like everybody
Yeah.
looks pretty down and out. I love the robots have red lights trope. I think it's like
Evil.
it's an additional step to install a different colored light when you're hacking a robot. That's not like a byproduct.
Right.
Dang, why did I feel like he had so much more emotion in that one little scene than the entire prequel trilogy that he was in? This is going to be his redemption, man, for episode 2 and 3.
It doesn't seem like a good idea to train with live lightsabers.
Yeah.
But it's the most BA way.
But I understand it.
Did he like just meet these people this episode, or did he meet them last episode?
That's a really good question, because I want to say he's like just meeting them, but then again, it also seems like he might have met them. Well, no, yeah, this would be the first time he's meeting them. Yeah,
because he's met Ice Cube's son Oshia and but it was very brief. He dipped in the back to tank and then dipped, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to feel this impact for this community. I don't know. To me, it's kind of rushed.
Is Oshia's last name also Cube?
I think it's
Oshia Cube.
It's Oshia Jackson. He's like, I don't want to be my dad.
The pacing of this episode, and I felt it right from the beginning. It reminds me of episode 9. Like that kind of like frenetic,
get
like
things
right
going.
from the beginning. There was it's just boom, boom, boom. You see Kylo killing people. He's on his way to Exegol. Like he's, it has that same kind of like we're done effing around. Like we're at it now.
At least the stormtroopers can hit a barnside door. Wouldn't it have been really funny if he told the 9-year-old girl Leia, "Don't F this up, or people are going to die."
Right.
No pressure.
That's the inspirational speech that I needed.
No pressure.
I knew
Dang.
it. I knew it. She was you.
I didn't expect that. But you would think, here's the thing though. He would think he would catch that. Vader would catch that. That's the other thing though. That kind of makes me go, I like the idea, but now I want to see if Vader has well, you knew, but I already knew. And I had a purpose for this.
Yeah, that's some Sidious type stuff. Some Darth Sidious type stuff.
Yeah. So
okay. So that. All right.
I feel like we're still I don't know if missing a piece is the right word or not, because she's still willing to let scores and scores of innocent people die for her revenge, but what she's mad about are innocent people dying.
Yeah. I think it's that same thing of like becoming the thing you hate.
Yeah.
Like,
how are they gonna get out of this?
I don't think they are. That's what I'm saying.
Oh no, I cared about her so much.
I'm like, you calling her name is like not.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't Marco Polo. She knows where you are. You know where she is. Like,
I give her respect. I mean, I don't really care about her, but respect.
Respect 100.
Yeah, for sure.
Put her in the YouTube shorts. They're throwing out there that Reva's gonna fight Anakin at some point here.
Yeah, she's got to.
Dude, what if she dies in this episode? Yeah, she's gonna die hands down.
I'm wondering. I'm really wondering like how far this is gonna go, like, because I am not sure of the range of this show yet. Because that to me seems like something that like is not outside of the realm of possibility for Vader. Because like remember even in episode that might have been 6, where Darth Sidious was like he was like, "Oh, you think everything is all wrapped nice and neat? Oh, your friends over there, you think that they got in like because they found out some secret? No, I let them in there. Now I'm going to have them all killed. And you're over here, and I'm going to let you watch."
It feels weird. It still feels weird.
Well,
I don't
it's
know
still
how to
funky because Vader still forgave her letting him go. Like, yeah, she tracked him and found the base, but everyone keeps saying all that matters is him, and she still let him go.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is like obviously like maybe he's gonna be like, hey, there's a reason why I chose to not act on her, deception about how actually her mission is to get closer to kill me. That's the only thing that makes me a little bit pissed, because it's like I feel like Vader would have expected that or would have known about that through the Force. But like I said, maybe he has something up his sleeve. Like there's a whole Darth Sidious, like you said, Richard, there's a whole point. So I won't fully say I don't like it.
Yeah, because the Sith are used to that, the whole rule of 2 thing. So the idea of there being, a third or whatever else, like, that idea of betrayal is steeped in Sith culture, them killing each other and whatever else. So I can see this being a similar thing of, like, he used her, letting her think that she was using him because he knew that, like, she would be more eager to bring Kenobi.
Yeah, I could see that.
Versus the other Inquisitors, they did not care. Like, they were just like, we're going to hunt the Jedi. And, like, that was it. But, like, they're missing the whole point, which is
why he probably
saying.
Doesn't care about the other Inquisitor. He's like, yeah, okay. He's gone.
That's one thing that was just so tragic about their dynamic is, like, Anakin can never be good enough, for Obi-Wan.
Dude, what if he destroys the ship? That'd be crazy.
I'm not going to lie, like, I'd love to see it.
Catches it. Oh my God, I knew. Oh my God.
Yes.
Dude. I mean, that's really bad CGI, but I don't care.
There's no F's given.
Dude, holy crap.
That's right. I'm like, if Rey could do it, come on, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, thank you, Deborah Chow, for doing this. Jesus Christ saves lives. Oh! Obi-Wan got you, dude.
I know he's heated.
I could just have the whole show be this. Like, honestly, this is what I would have rather wanted. Like, why couldn't they have just done this?
I can't imagine he didn't sense her intent.
Oh, we gotta have them fight. Oh, you're right, Rich.
This is exactly how I imagined this would go. Like, she has no shot.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay.
I mean, it's not particularly well designed, but still, cool.
Oh, I wonder if she's gonna die and the Grand Inquisitor comes back.
And there's our boy.
Okay, they didn't break canon. They didn't retcon it.
Yeah, I don't get what we're doing. I don't know why we're... I don't know why we're pointing at Luke. We know what happens with Luke. That's not suspenseful.
Yeah, I wish they would have ended it like, even with that close up of Obi-Wan's face. Like I kind of what I appreciate about what they have been doing with this character is this kind of like oscillation between him being almost like crazed in a way, like almost like questioning himself, questioning his own like grasp of reality, and these moments of brilliance where he comes back and he's himself, and he knows what he needs to do, and and yeah, it's just, and it's Obi-Wan, and I think that's why like I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of like this, where it's almost in a way it's almost like it's a callback to episode 3, where like the whole council knew something was up, but they just like they couldn't quite put their finger on it. Everything seemed fine, but not at the same time. But no one had anything conclusive. I mean, of course, the war was going on, but they weren't quite sure. And it seems like it's almost like a repeat, for him, where he's like, something isn't right, and I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's me or if, you know what I'm saying? Like it just is a very interesting thing, I think, like what they did with him at the end of that. Yeah, but I don't know what that whole thing of like ending on Luke, like I don't.
I have no idea what that's about. It's not very suspenseful to do. We know Luke's ultimate destiny already here. It's not...
Yeah, like I think, like I don't know. To me, how it kind of perceived to me is that, is Vader going down there, or is Reva going down there?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I feel like this could lead to is the revelation that Vader had a son. Like, there's nothing on the table telling her that he has a daughter, too, at this point. But there is something on the table saying he had a son. But I don't think Reva would try to kill Luke out of revenge, because killing just to be like was what made her in the first place.
Yeah, so maybe it was more of like a sense of urgency. Like, I don't know, like, because Kenobi, I think then he was receiving kind of a distress call, essentially, from Reva. Maybe, I don't know, like through the Force, she like, hey, just letting you know, this thing was here, and maybe Vader heard it or picked it up. I don't even. It's like, I'm even stretching here. I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Because there's like the dramatic music obviously cues up that, okay, great, Reva knows, but obviously, what's she gonna do? Like, she gonna get her revenge? No, that doesn't make any sense. Like, she just hates Vader. So I feel like it is Vader. I feel like it is the sense of like, oh, he must have heard this. Oh my God. And some people, I feel like we're gonna be like, well, it's just gonna retcon, like he's never met his son, blah blah blah. Well, yes and no, I guess. But we honestly, he knows that he has a son, but we just never got to that moment of how did he know, right? So I think that's kind of interesting. That's what I kind of like about that, where it's like, if that's the case, like, oh no, Vader, I like the idea, not so much the suspense, right? Because like you said, Tim, we already freaking know. So it's like, cool.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. But I like the idea of how did Vader come to learn of his children? I think that's kind of like what this show's been about too. It's like the connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin's kids, and Anakin, and now I guess we're getting that connection piece, even though I don't think we ever really got that sense. So that's why to me it's a little bit jarring at the same time, this episode, because it introduces new ideas that were kind of like, they were kind of there, but they weren't really explored. And now we only have one episode left to explore these really cool ideas, which yet again, I will still say this now after watching it, this needs more episodes. This needs 8, I think, personally. And I don't know why they choose to do 6. Like, it makes me feel, it's yet again, that's how I feel about Moon Knight. Great show. Man, they needed an extra 2 hours to wrap things up.
Yeah, I still feel like if they trimmed some of the fat, they could have done what they wanted to in 4 episodes. Fully agree. Like, this could have been a 2.5-hour movie, which was always originally the plan. It was going, not 2.5, but you know what I mean? It was going to be a movie. But
to me, a 5-hour movie miniseries sounds even cooler. But why flesh out things like characters like Tala that don't really add up anything to the character of Obi-Wan? Granted, yeah, you get some heartfelt moments like the motivation of, be better. You got to keep on going. Yeah, but noticing your reaction too, Richard, it's kind of like, cool. I just don't care about these moments that don't really, they don't matter. We want Obi-Wan and Anakin. And I feel like I'm already hating on this episode. I really liked this episode. I did not love it. I don't think it's like a 9 out of 10. I don't even know what I would give it, but I think it's either the best or the second best because I really liked 3, but I really like what they were able to show with Vader and the power of Vader and the flashback moments of Hayden Christensen. It was just so cool seeing him being weirdly old but young at the same time, but then me just not caring because it's Hayden. Like,
watching a 40-year-old man play a 22-year-old character.
Hey, watch Dear Evan Hansen. That's what that is. That movie sucked. Sorry, but no, I liked this. I really liked this episode. I really, really did. There was so much to like about it, but there was a couple things that I felt like, characters like Tala and storylines that didn't really matter, or moments between Camille's character with Leia's character that were quippy Disney Plus dialogue that, granted, I had to think about. I'm like, you know what? There are scenes like this between Leia and Han, right? So this isn't like completely not Star Wars, but it just didn't feel necessary for this episode. I felt like there were so many other things that they could have, I don't know, spent more time with, like Anakin and Obi-Wan, and that concept of there is still a bit of Anakin inside of him. And we did get that, and I appreciate that. But I felt like, yet again, it's just that issue of, oh my God, I understand we need to have these other side characters to propel them to this moment, right, where they meet each other. We need, like, the purpose. We need the narrative of Leia getting captured. We don't need the recaptured crap. So, personally, we didn't.
Do you guys think... No, I don't really think we needed that. Do you guys think that in order to sidestep fully flesh... Because there's a lot of... Knowing what we know about Reva now, like, there's a lot of questions. Like me, now I'm curious about, like, okay, so what has she had to go through, or what parts of herself did she have to shut down to become this person who's willing to willy-nilly lop off limbs in her mission for revenge against Vader? Like, what did, what part of her had to... And now I'm like, well, there's one episode left. And, there's a fair amount of questions to kind of answer and, fill in the blanks between that night and where she is now. How'd she infiltrate the Empire or whatnot? And what is she going to do now since it seems like she's survived? I'm wondering, do you guys think they're going to give her own show?
Yes and no. I mean, okay. I mean, like, yeah, I could see it happen.
Rich is dying back there.
Here's the thing, though. This is really, really quick. Here's the thing. I wouldn't mind a show about Reva, or it's kind of around her, but call it The Inquisitors. Have a show about the Inquisitors, and she's one of the main 3 leads or something like that. Or one of the main 2 leads.
I feel like a show about her climb to power is almost kind of pointless. What I want to know... Honestly, all I want to know at this point is, like, okay, like, you had this horrible thing happen to you. Like, how... I don't know, just what part of you did you... How did you shut that part of you down that tells you everything you're doing is justifiable?
Well, that's the issue. It's that they rushed through it. Like, I like the idea, right, of her. I actually really love the idea of what she went through, but I don't feel what she went through. I was just told through a quick little flashback, and I love, the concept's amazing. but then it's just done in 5 to 10 minutes. It's introduced and then it's done.
Yeah, sorry, I'll be quick. The production staff on working on this must have had like a total panic moment, because this would have been done in the can, edited, ready to go, and then let's just be real, then Uvalde happened. Like, it was in the can already. So as soon as the warning comes up saying there might be something, in this episode, I was like, oh, this episode's going to have, like, children in peril. I didn't know it was going to be that crucial of a plot point. That being said, though, I think it was Vader has done so much to make so many enemies. It's not like this didn't make some kind of sense.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say, Rich? Sorry.
I think that what was I gonna say? Well, I'll start with one thing that I was thinking. I mean, as far as the show goes, I mean, I agree. I mean, it would be pointless, and I think it would be indicative of a very large problem, with like what is being done in general with Star Wars, which is like no new stories are being made. It's all like tellings of things that already have like an end to them. And I love the in-between stuff. Like I think it's cool. But it kind of goes to, I feel about it the same way that you were talking about what can be done with the multiverse, Tim, when we were talking about Doctor Strange, which felt like eons ago. But you were talking about how it can be used as a weird like fix-all kind of thing, where if there are like plot holes or whatever else,
Chavez
it's like
can just be like, bam, here's
yeah,
a solution.
boom,
Bam, here's a solution.
exactly,
But they're just gonna hide her away with the monks and not talk about it. Because
right,
you gotta keep her safe
until we need her to fix some plot holes. But I feel like it's a similar thing where it's like, oh well, we're not really gonna spend too much time like developing this character. Oh wow, everyone really liked this character. Oh, a show, and it's like like this is what I mean by like I've been seeing the trend for a little while now. Again, I was like excited because we're seeing like some really cool stories, the bridging of the gaps between different things, but like I feel like if they go that route of like giving her a show of like her rise and all this other kind of stuff, like to me that marks like a real, I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but like I'm gonna be hyperbolic here and just say like the beginning of the end type of thing, where it's like, okay, they found a game, and like now they're just like running that game because they know like, oh, okay, here's the cheat code, and like I'm just gonna keep spamming that cheat code, and everyone's just gonna like keep coming back, So that's kind of how I feel about if there is another show. I feel like there was a much better way that it could have been done, as far as if we even want to look at other Star Wars media. So, for example, the game Jedi Fallen Order, right? So we see like a similar thing happen where Padawan was taken into captivity, and then she was turned into an Inquisitor. And I felt like the way that story was told, it was actually like pretty quick, also done in a flashback, but you were able to see the gravity and the weight of that, because you were able to see her, get tortured for a small bit of time. You were able to see her turn. And again, that idea of showing more than just telling. And so, I definitely think that it could have been done in a different way. I am glad that we at least got to see a little bit of it, and I'm glad that at least we got a little bit of a reveal as to what went on with her, what her connection was to Darth Vader and to Obi-Wan. I'm glad, especially because I took I was 0 for 2 last time. I'm glad that all my long bets paid off.
Yep.
But so it was nice in that way, but I do feel like it was cheapened a little bit. I mean, as far as like some of the I think one of the issues that I'm having with this series thus far is that it seems to lack detail and like make large leaps of logic in like very crucial places, and then in other places it like tries to make certain things explicitly clear as if you're like a child watching it. And I don't know if that has to do with like they may be writing for like a mixed audience, so they're like not quite sure of like, you know, they're making this maybe as an introductory piece in some way, but also trying to write it for people that are like hardcore fans that have been waiting for this for a while. Like I'm not quite sure, because like I get mixed signals. Again, like the episode that we saw, like to me, like I said, it was like a comedy plot, and the way that certain things were playing out, like it was like a comedy. You know, other ones like the first episode, you know, very bleak, very like nostalgic in a way of like old school Star Wars, almost like a silent film in a way. Felt very much like a space opera, which was like, you know, George Lucas's like original kind of like a thrust in a way. And yeah, it's just like it's very like the tone, I feel like, of the series like fluctuates a lot, and I feel like that's also why it's kind of hard to like not just get into it, but like to stay in it, right? It's like you can't like that suspension of disbelief doesn't, it only lasts so long, because like they keep overriding the logic that they like wrote before, and sometimes even like within the episode itself, you know. So even like, you know, when we're talking about Tala, right, one thing that I really love about having her character in the story was that, again, it went to show like, oh, there are like straight up people that have like infiltrated the Empire, which is something that like I never quite thought of before. And it kind of like feeds into that theme of like humanizing certain aspects of the Empire, like we were saying on the same episode of, you know, that we met her character, of like the stormtroopers and how they were talking with, you know, the guy like, hey man, yada yada, yeah, they're late again, that kind of thing. And then we see her character, and that like, oh, there's people that are like that are a part of the Empire, like in a real way. Because at first I thought she was just pretending to be part of the Empire, but it's like, oh no, she's actually part of the Empire.
Yeah.
And then we also see Reva now, who like also was like a hardcore like Inquisitor, but who also was in a way like she infiltrated it, for her like own means. You know, she was like manipulating the system as far as she knew, to get to her own means. But like so we have these like very interesting characters, and we see certain things like about their motivation and personality and things behind them through the things they do. And then we have these almost like hallmark moments where they try to force like a weird like emotional scene, and it just like doesn't, it for me it doesn't quite work. So with Tala,
yeah, because they just jam it right in. They just shove it right in to be like, hey, look, we have a moment like this. Now let's go to the cool action moment. So that jarring feeling, I completely agree with you on that, man. Completely do.
So
this episode kind of like it gave me questions about consistency again, and they kind of centered around Vader. Like in this episode, he's powerful enough to pull a ship out of the sky, but then we go back to episode 3, and he was still weak enough to let one person with a blaster be enough to get Ben away from him. You know,
I read this
in the hills, I was like,
here's the thing. So there's an interview with Hayden Christensen. Very interesting. You guys should check it out. I don't know if it's IGN or whatever. It's obviously some source, but they asked him about the episode, that moment, and his response was that he was in shock of how weak Obi-Wan was. And he was like, interesting. Okay. Kind of like that reaction. So when I heard that, and here's the thing though that sucks, it's like, hey, I believe that is probably what the writers intended. I did
not pick that up at all.
Exactly. And if you're not picking that up, and you're not picking that up, and other people that I've talked to didn't pick that up, that means there's a disconnect, inconsistencies with the script. And I'm like, and I hate when that happens, when you have to have an interview explain, no, this is what it meant. And I still like the idea, but it's just not there. It's not plain to us.
Show don't tell is really important, but part of the challenge with show don't tell with a character like Vader is there's no face. There's no expression that you can pull off of. But
somehow the Mandalorian pulled it off. I remember there was so many episodes in that show where I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna cry and I don't even see his face. But the only emotion I feel from Vader is two things: conflict, like episode 6 when he looks at Luke and looks back. One of the greatest moments, I think, for me personally, one of the best moments of all time. And anger. Conflict and anger. That's the only thing I really ever get from him. So I think we do get moments of that, but you're right. It is just, when you see that face, you're just like, oh my God, he's so cool and he's so pissed all the time. I love it. But you want to see those other layers and you don't really get that. So
yeah. And they could do it too, because it's like at the end of episode 3, like at the very end of episode 3, when he's like on the deck of some, ship or whatever, there's like literally just like it's maybe like 10, 15 seconds where he's like, it's a side shot of him. He's just like looking like into the galaxy, and he just folds his arms and does like this. And like you could feel the anguish in him, and like that sense of resignation of like this is it, this is my life now, you know what I'm saying? And it's
I felt different watching that moment. I felt like it was him just kind of feeling like he was taking his place, but like actually knew this was where he wanted to be. That's kind of how I felt that was.
That's interesting.
Dang.
Okay.
I kind of felt
that would make sense based off of everything that he was saying in the fight with Obi-Wan. So I could see that.
Like he was like, all right, I'm where I'm supposed to be. That's how I took that.
Yeah, very true. This is my galaxy, my new empire, like he was saying. Yeah, very true.
The other thing this episode kind of threw out at me that I just felt like inconsistent with Vader is that like in this episode, in only a couple of instances, only moments apart, he can sense the intent of Reva when she's like coming at him. Like he knows she's coming and like stops the blade without looking and the whole shebang. But he could not sense that there was an entire second ship. An entire second ship just kind of. Now, was it like behind the first one? Because that wouldn't make a ton of sense, because the first one was off the ground.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing, to be honest, because I was like, okay, I don't know where that came from.
That was some Tom and Jerry kind of a little bit, right? Like you're kind of like, oh, Obi-Wan made a smart play, but I'm kind of like, okay, maybe on paper, but where was this ship? Was it docked underground and the first ship just landed in such a way that the second one could come out from underground and launch from behind it completely unseen? Or like, was the second ship just sitting there and he ignored it because it wasn't in the sky?
Also, was somebody piloting it? Like, was somebody like, hey, buddy, can you,
Yeah, they sacrificed like this one pilot.
Right.
They're like,
it's just like some really dumb guy who gets in there and he's like, oh, what do you want me to do?
We're sorry, Brad, but we need you to stay behind.
He's been eating too many of the rations. He needs to go. Sorry, dude. Get out.
You gotta fly the ship Vader drags down.
I mean, given they could have just remote controlled it too, because the technology that they have, not of our world.
Yeah.
So, but it's reaching. But I still think it's funny that like, hey, Brad, you suck. Go die.
Yeah.
I do agree. It was kind of like, even though I was like ooh, Obi-Wan got you. He played you, you dumb idiot. But it's like, okay, but where was the ship though? Like I immediately thought that afterwards, like 2 minutes after, I was like, wait a second.
Now, if they have an interview where they ask them, hey, where was the ship?
Hayden's like, this is how it made me feel.
Obi-Wan
okay?
used the Force to make him not see it. Okay, but I'm the audience. Tell me, tell,
right.
like, show me that. Give me some.
Right.
I don't, like you said, Jack, and I do agree. I don't like the notion that common sense questions are answered in interviews and like outside the.
Yeah.
It should be a coherent, complete story by itself.
It should be like interviews are meant for like really like underlying things that don't necessarily need to be known, but once they're known, it's like that's really cool. Yeah. You know?
No, I could see a Reva show happening. I could. They left her alive. They left her open. They could have her kind of go from here to helping the rebels with her inside knowledge of the Empire. I mean, I don't mean to sound cold-hearted, but the Empire, and Vader in particular, is not one to leave loose ends. It's very, very strange to me that he did not kill her, because she was Grand Inquisitor for a minute there. I mean, I'm sure he knew what her intent was for a long time, because he even knew she was a youngling. Mm-hmm. But the idea that she knows as much about the Empire as she does honestly should make her a massive liability.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, because she knows she was literally in one of the highest ranking positions during that time. And it's like, you just want her to, just let her bleed out a little bit, but we're not going to kill her. We're not going to make sure she's dead.
They just left a complete cauterized hole in her midsection.
Yeah, I'm like, Vader of all people should understand like killing somebody all the way. I'm like, my man. Like, you had like three. Also,
I can't imagine how that wouldn't kill you all the way.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
But yet again, he could pull something. I don't like.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, he could have left her alive, because he like, there could be again like a greater thing at play where it's like another opportunity presented itself. Yeah. Right, with like things not necessarily going the way that he planned, but like, okay, well, I'll just have another plan. So
yeah, because like, without, that connection to Obi-Wan from Reva, like maybe that's what he wanted, right? Maybe he wants like, oh, this is the only way I know I'm going to find Obi-Wan, is because now he knows that boy's in danger. And that's why he gets that sense of urgency of like, oh God.
Question. I feel like the answer's got to be yes, and I don't know if it should be. In Star Wars canon or lore, are there any characters who have been impaled on a lightsaber and survived?
Qui-Gon. Oh, too soon. Just kidding. I'm calling it. We're going to get him next week. We have to get him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Because my brain is going to the place where I try to think about the medical complications of being impaled by a sword so hot that your wounds immediately cauterize. Whenever someone's arm is lopped off, it does not bleed, and it passes by incredibly quickly. And I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, this laser sword is melting skin, nerves, bone, organs, portion of them into jelly, no matter where it stabs you in your midsection.
Right.
The medical complications of having your internal organs melted, not just melted, but honestly kind of melted together would be... I can't imagine the survival rate on being fully impaled on a lightsaber to be very high at all.
Yeah, because I'm like Qui-Gon died from that very thing. Like he got stabbed in like a similar place, and then he just died. So,
I'm wondering if they're testing the water for another show. I'm really wondering if they are, and they're cranking out the shows right now, man. They're cranking them out.
And I think that's the issue with Star Wars, though, right now, and well, just in general with content today. They just feel like they have the need, like they have the property, and then they just go bananas. It's like an analogy with Malcolm in Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum's character, where it's like...
whether they should.
It's like, yeah, exactly. You just didn't ask the question whether you should. Like, you just put it on a lunchbox, and you sold it. You sold it. You sold it. You sold it. You sell it. You sell it. I love that scene. Best scene in Jurassic Park. franchise.
It's a really good scene.
It's amazing. And by the way, Jurassic World, you should have harkened back to those kind of scenes, not dudes on a motorcycle, raptors.
Another day.
I'm so sorry, Tim. Sorry, Obi-Wan.
Another day.
I mean,
it's your channel.
No, I'll respect this because you are staying up, my friend, and I love you. And it's like, what, 4:30 a.m.? Jesus Lord.
It's 3:30 for you, Rich, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
3:30 for you.
So, I mean, it's only an hour later for me than it has been for Rich every week. So I'm not going to throw myself a huge pity party.
Richard?
It's 1 week where I'm 3 hours later, and every week Rich is 2 hours later. So I'm not going to throw myself a huge pity party here. But
oh, my gosh.
I
respect to both of you. Love you.
It kind of goes back to what I said about why I loved movies like No Way Home and Endgame, is because it provides a lot of closure. And I really don't like, to me, this is just, it leaves more room to spread. There's room to spread for an Inquisitor show. There's room to spread for a Reva show. There's room to spread. And as a result, it makes certain shows almost like they're like, oh, we're afraid we could miss out on another good show. Let's leave this open. So now a lot of shows that are franchises, like, hey, here's a story that takes place in the Star Wars world. We're only allowed as an audience to get so much closure, because if we actually get all the closure that we really want as an audience, those shows can't really happen. I think, without going into it or spoiling or anything, if we take probably the best prequel that I've seen in Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad still had a ton of closure. I'm not going to say anything or spoil anything, but it still had a ton of very satisfying closure. But they found the missing links in Breaking Bad to make all of these characters extremely compelling again, and be like, oh, I never thought about how this person could be looked at that way. Oh yeah, that is a piece of their backstory Breaking Bad never went into. Oh wow, that's really compelling again. But they did that at no sacrifice to a sense of closure. And I'm just not feeling that here. I'm not feeling a whole lot of closure coming up. And I understand some things have to remain open because this has to, in some way, shape, or form, lead into episode 4. But I think they're leaving so much open for stuff that has a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, it's stuff that doesn't really matter.
We know that Empire loses. We know it turns into the First Order. We know that they lose. So there's only so many interesting stories that you can tell.
Yep.
And Reva's story of how she turned off that part of herself to become an Inquisitor, to me, is more interesting than her being like, now I'm going to help the rebellion. Well, we know the rebellion wins. We already know that. I'm not really sure. It's not like there's not stuff there to dive into. I just don't know if it's an angle that I'm super duper interested in personally. Because, like I said, I think Reva is a pretty interesting character in person. And she, even up to this episode, to some extent, she's kind of a reflection of Anakin. Because, I mean, as we know, Anakin eventually turns on his own master too. He turns on the Emperor in episode 6. For his own reasons that are not bad reasons. And she did the same thing here, not bad reasons. I get why she did it. So, I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm going on and on, but I'm hoping episode 6 does. I feel like it's kind of got its work cut out for it. I don't know if they're going to do a thing kind of like Game of Thrones did, where every episode's 50-something minutes, and then the last episode of the season is like 75
an hour and 20. Let's go. I mean, let me see, because each episode, I'm going to do some math, because next week in Canada, we're doing a Q&A.
I would not be at all surprised to find out a Reva show is the next thing to be announced. It would not surprise me. They left her alive, and they did it for a reason, and there's only one episode left. So, unless she ends up coming back to play some kind of a major part in this last episode. I'm not sure what it could be. And if she does, I honestly hope that's what it is, because honestly, and I'm not even saying this just about her show, Disney's cranking out so many Star Wars shows right now that I'm like, do any of these actually need to exist? Mm-hmm. Like, how much material is too much? Because the conclusions are foregone. We know how not only this war ends, we know how the next war ends. Mm. So how much more about this conflict do we need to fill out before just something changes, or even like the genre of what we go through has to change? Like, I don't know. Are we ready for the Star Wars political thriller show? You know, like, what's the how much more can we do that's still compelling? Because that's part of why The Mandalorian is so good, is that it takes place after episode 6. We know a bit about what's happened with Luke between 6 and 8, but there's a lot of things in that show that are not foregone, because the ground between 6 and 7 is largely unexplored, and there's still ongoing conflict, but there's no ongoing war. The Empire still exists, but the conflict was more or less laid to rest, and now they're just kind of this dormant, hostile force. Mandalorian works because there is ground to work with some compelling stories in there. I don't know if I see the groundwork for more, and that groundwork was laid by the movies. It wasn't laid by anything else. This show is trying to lay the groundwork for more shows, is what I'm picking up. The groundwork isn't being laid by the movies. The groundwork is being laid by the shows. And if they do start another Reva show, I can already see the YouTube thumbnails. Go whip, go broke, bottom of the barrel. I can see it from here. I can hear Jeremy from The Courting. Is that his name, Jeremy? I can hear Geeks and Gamers guy. I can hear all of it already. I really can. I hate channels like that. And I have a very specific reason for hating channels like that, besides the obvious. But it's that those are channels that thrive on making people angry. Every video is meant to make their audience angry. Every video, and when it's not meant to make their audience angry, it's meant to like rub something in someone's face. And that's what it is. It thrives on making people angry. And I don't know. It feels dirty. It feels like a gross way to make a living to me. And I don't know those people as people. I'm sure that at times maybe they're pleasant at a bar stool, but when I see those kinds of videos, I'm like, I just can't imagine not feeling kind of gross at the end of the day, being like, I made a paycheck because I just made a bunch of people irrationally angry over something that's not super duper important to begin with. I don't know, just doesn't really seem like it doesn't even sound creatively fulfilling, honestly.
Yeah, it's like if things turned up the way that they did over her being like a side character, it's like, you could just imagine if she had her own,
oh my gosh,
miniseries or whatever,
they went full woke.
Right. Yeah. Full. Yeah. Oh God.
There was. Did you guys ever see the guy who went on a rant about how the Oscars went full woke because Parasite won Best Picture?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
it was an amazing film.
And it was funny. He was saying, like, I just wish Joker should have won. It had a message about society and different, like, classes of citizens. And everybody's just like, did you see Parasite?
Right. It's like the entire premise, my man.
Well, yeah, seriously. It's not even the movie. It's like the premise of the movie, let alone the movie itself. That movie's really good. Parasite was so good. But it's just like this complete lack of self-awareness. It's just... and at the same time, part of me is like, okay, like, you can be mad if Disney went full woke. You can be mad that a black female might be the main character of the next piece of the franchise. You can be like, go ahead, get mad. I don't care. But no matter how mad you get, like, the original trilogy's not going anywhere. 1, 2, and 3 is not going. You still have it. They can make stuff that maybe makes it feel cheap, but if you hate the new stuff so much, okay, ignore it. Just keep what you have and just love that.
Just skip it.
Just whatever.
Yeah.
We skip songs we don't like all the time. So skip shows you don't like all the time.
Yeah. And this is the thing, though. This is where I can understand fans where they might get angry, where it's like, why are we making these things canon? And like in the back of their minds, that's what makes them mad. Not about the race thing. Screw like those people.
The continuity getting messed up and things like that. And to some extent, I can understand that because that's not like a music track you can just skip to some extent. Because it's just in the back of your head. Messed with. Sure.
Exactly. You're just like, I can still watch episode 3, but now I know this happens 10 years later.
But
great.
I don't buy that that's the only thing going on here when channels critique like that. Because it is systematically targeted. There's a systematic targeting towards women and minorities in channels like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much so. Like I don't remember seeing videos online saying Christopher Nolan went full woke because he had a black protagonist for Tenet. I don't remember seeing a single one. It's always minorities and it's always women.
Oh, when people were mad about 007, No Time to Die, Lashana Lynch playing
I forgot.
a female. Yeah, she was great. Oh,
was she like a female MI6 agent or something?
Yeah, she was the female. Because James Bond retired, she became the new 007. And then I could see why some fans were like, just don't make her like this super cocky person who's like, yeah, you're old. I'm new. Yeah. That kind of ish pisses me off. But the way they managed her characteristics and his, I thought it was fun. Sure. It was different. It was engaging. And then you obviously have the geeks and cultures or whatever being like, wow, this is just a ploy to get this demographic to like this property. Wow. And I'm like, no, she's just a really BA. She's a BA, dude.
Well, if anything, it's a risk. It's a risk to cast a woman as the next James Bond or 007 or Jane, whatever they're doing, Jane Bond. I don't know, but it's a risk.
Idris Elba all the way.
Casting, I'd be down for that. Casting a dude is kind of a sure thing. Casting a woman is a risk. So
it is. No, I agree with you because like obviously like it's sad, but it's not like
not enough. I only ever saw one James Bond movie all the way through ever in my life. So it's not like I'm super duper attached to the franchise to begin with. But I mean, I'm open to that idea. Sure, why not? I don't care.
Yeah, but then you have the fans that are like, oh my God, they can't do this to the white British man character. Yeah. And here's the thing. This is what I can say. I can understand the ploy of like, well, why don't we just make, new characters? But that's not the issue. They're just racist. So even if they make a show like that, they're not going to watch it. Like, and that's the issue that I have. It's like, okay, I get it if you don't like a character for her having just a single-minded attitude, like, oh, she's just pissed off. She's one note. There's no range for her. I can understand that. But for somebody to be like, yeah, well, can we just talk about the elephant in the room, guys? She's blankety blank, whatever ethnicity it is. But it's like, that's the obvious, like, even if they're not even saying it, they're saying it and you can sense it. And I think that's the thing. This is a whole thing that could turn into another hour debate, but
there are times where like Hollywood will fumble it too. When the first trailer for Tenet came out, they were showing like the the graphics on the screen saying like next summer get ready, and it said something like for a new kind of hero, and then it cuts to him, and I was like, a black guy. It's almost like they were telling me that a black guy is a new kind of hero, and I was
never
like,
seen this before.
did anybody proof watch this? This is definitely not the first black action hero we've ever had. What is happening right now? Get ready for a new kind of hero. He's black.
Yeah, I'm really curious, like, if I feel like if Reva was a man,
I'm so curious.
yeah, if Reva, I feel like if Reva was a man, I feel like the reception would have been like very different. I feel like if Reva was like if Reva was a black man, I'm very curious to know what that reception would have been. And if Reva was a white man, I'm really curious to know what that reception would have been. Because all three of those, like, I feel like based on the responses in the past, I feel like they each would have gotten something very different. And like the same kinds of like character traits that we see as like tropes in certain things like villains or like just like different kinds of like main characters are perceived differently, like based on kind of like what what kind of person does it, so for example, like if a lot of times in media, if a woman is a bit more assertive or something like that, then a lot of people will characterize her, a lot of sexist people will characterize her as being bossy or whatever else.
Butch,
that kind
woke,
of thing.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right, But if you take that same character and then you just like wrote that character as a male, then we see him as like a alpha Chad that, like knows how to get what he wants and all this other kind of stuff, And so it's a really interesting thing to like to think about in that kind of way, because even the idea of like, Reva was like very one note. And I think that's like a very interesting like thing as well that I've been mulling over recently is how our expectations in media, the media that we consume, has like evolved with time, and also how certain eras that we're like that we engage in, like how we demand different kinds of things from them. So for example, right, like in episodes 4, 5, and 6, especially in 6, like Darth Sidious was like just evil. Like all we knew was like he was a decrepit, nasty looking like Sith dude that was evil, and he just wanted to do he just wanted to do evil things. That's all we know. And he wants to just he wants to turn Luke into a Sith, and because he's super powerful and yada yada. But that's all we know. And like people aren't up in arms about that. Like we don't know anything about where he came from. We don't know, like he doesn't have some deep intentions. He's just the evil bad guy. And Luke is good just because he's good. You know what I'm saying? Like he went from being a whiny brat in episode 4, which I love to remind people of, because people like act like Luke was like some hero, just like whatever from the beginning. Like he was a whiny brat at the beginning of episode 4, like arguing with his uncle about, going and hanging out with his boys, to then like being thrust into this world or whatever. But as far as like, what were his motivations? It's like, I mean, kind of because he, like, his whole family died. We didn't really know anything about them either. Like there's all these things that we just didn't know anything about, but we just accepted them. And when we go and revisit them, we don't apply all these critiques. But when we're watching like the newer media, like now we are. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think it's like interesting that we do that. So for example, when we are talking about a character like Reva, where she's like on this consistent tone and like path, and we don't know why. Um, we have a certain reaction to that versus when we see Darth Vader in the beginning of episode 4, like he's just like he's choking people, he's killing people, whatever else. By the end of it, he's flying a ship and, you know, trying to stop them from blowing up the Death Star and ends up losing. And like and that's that. You know, he's an evil dude. Episode 5, he's an evil dude, but we find out, oh snap, you know, he's Luke's father. But he's still evil and he wants to turn Luke evil. Like, you know, and it's not really till we get to kind of like episode 6 in a real way where we start to see some more like cracks in there where it's like, you know, at the end of the day, like he is a dad. He is still Anakin. Anakin is still in there. But you know, he feels trapped, you know, and that's kind of like what he talks about, like how can I go back? It's impossible. You know, so it took like 3 movies in order to get there. And up until that point, he was just this figure of pure evil. You know, and so like I think that that's why like when it came to Reva's character and then, you know, even similar with like how I felt with Kylo Ren, which I know a lot of people hated, a lot of like the Star Wars fans like really hated. But like it's part of why like I extend those characters like a lot of grace is because I'm like, well, I did the same thing with Vader. I did the same thing with like a lot of the characters in Star Wars that like just were written how they were written, and you know they had a certain like function in that world, and as that world had time to develop, then we got to, you know, kind of interact with them more. But this idea of you know, even for example, like just the bad guys being bad guys in different ways. You know, Vader has that he has like a burning rage that isn't like a quick, you know, flash in the pan type of thing. Like it is with Reva or Kylo Ren, which I feel like Kylo Ren was way more. He was like to the other like extreme of that, being incredibly volatile as a person. Versus with Reva, she at least had focus. She had focus. I feel like she's kind of like that point in between where she had, you know, at least plans and that kind of thing, and was playing the field in a way. And then and then you had you know Vader, who just is like sheer force and power and will, but also like vengeance and rage and passion. But he's like learned how to control it with time, which, like you said, Tim, that I never thought of before. But like more than likely through that training that he had, you know, with Palpatine, because that's very much, you know, Palpatine's MO. So yeah, you know, I think it's very interesting how we interact with the characters and like with the world, because it's come out today versus if it would have came out, you know, 2 decades ago or whatever, how we would have felt about, you know, Reva if it came out during the time of episode 3 or whatever else.
I agree to an extent, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I've talked like forever, so
I agree to some extent, but also like back when the original trilogy came out, critique culture was different. Like back then, it was like Ebert and Roper. They didn't us sitting down for a long chunk of time to analyze the entertainment we ingest. Well, it's not a thing. It's just like, oh, what'd they say in the paper? Oh, did you see Ebert and Roper on the news this week? Did they give it thumbs up, thumbs down? You know, that was the extent of movie critique back then for the most part. Sometimes I'll still watch them on YouTube though, because they were just kind of fun. But and I think kind of part of the other thing is that at least me personally, I don't ingest it's a weird word, but I don't ingest Star Wars media very often. Before this, The Mandalorian was the last Star Wars thing I watched, and I watched it quarantined in a hotel room over a year ago. So it's and I wasn't sitting down to like critique it or take it apart back then. So this is the first time I've ever sat down with a group of people to actually be like, let's talk about, take apart, and put back together Star Wars at all. I've never done it before. That's why I keep having random observations out of the blue, just like, you know what? I don't think anybody knows how to use the Force.
Yeah.
Like that is not a Obi-Wan Kenobi show only observation. That's me being like, oh, this is just something I realized about the whole franchise because I don't ingest it regularly enough to be critiquing it like that. But no, I understand what you're saying about how like, and people analyze things differently now. And I mean, everybody and their mother has a YouTube channel taking things apart. I'm sure if I were to like go in the backlogs and look up some random, I don't want to say obscure, but like a popular anime from like 1988, someone out there has probably done like an episode by episode reaction and analysis of it.
Yeah.
It's fun. Sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, you know, what's funny is there's like 7 billion people on the planet, and for some reason every idea is taken. But I don't know. I'm curious to ask you, Jack. Like, I'm not gonna say rank every episode, but where does this one like fall for you?
Well, and to close this off too, because I don't want you staying up any longer, both of you. We'll end it here, but to close it off, where do I rank this?
I mean, shoot your thoughts if you got them.
Yeah. This will be like, I'll try to keep it at max 5 minutes and then done. But ranking first, it's either the first or the second. I know that for sure, but it's definitely between 3 and this. Because I liked episode 1. Like at first it was like 3-1, 1-3, and then I was like, no, 3's the best. 1, I rewatched 1, and I remember the second time watching it being like, I like it. I really do. I love the setup. I love seeing where he's at, but it just took a little bit too much time. That was the big thing for me. Yeah. And 3, I just felt like was more engaging, especially when you get to see Darth Vader being a cruel and ruthless, just outright villain. He was just being a villain, and I loved that. Yeah, granted the fight wasn't great, but rewatching that episode the second time, I was like, this is the appetizer. This is to show that Obi-Wan's not ready, and he better get ready. So I like that urgency. So I think this one could be, I think it is the best. I will say this, 3 and 5. 3 and 5 even for me right now. Because 5, I like what they did, right? I like them showing me Hayden. Here's the little keys, distracting me. Oh, look at this. Oh, bad writing. But Hayden.
He's 40, Hayden, but look at the keys.
But look at the keys. Look at him. I just felt like they did that. They did a really good job implementing those sequences throughout the entire episode to show the conflict of Anakin and as Darth Vader. I really liked that. I really liked what they were trying to portray here, and kind of almost a setup for episode 6. And pride being his downfall. Count Dooku said it. Like, that has always been his issue. And you get amazing moments of him stopping a ship, Thank God they made it bigger than the other ship than, in episode 9 with Rey. Dear Lord. I'm just glad they finally, they're showcasing Vader more and more that he is the man. This is the greatest villain in any IP. This is Darth Vader. So I think that's the reason why I would put it up a tiny bit higher. it'd be like an 8.5, and episode 3 is like an 8.2. That's like where it's at for me. Still need a little bit more time because I'm definitely a person that needs a second viewing. And luckily, Alicia has not watched 3, 4, and 5. So honestly, I'm just going to wait till next week and we're just going to binge the last 4 episodes. And then I'm going to see how she reacts because I feel like she's going to be bored with this show. Like normal, I think, and that's where I'll end this too. I think Star Wars fans will be like, it was solid in the areas that it was solid, but it was very underwhelming in the areas that didn't need to be underwhelming or they didn't need to be in there in the first place. So I feel like a lot of people who are Star Wars fans are going to give this like a 5 or a 6. It'll be either mid, just average, or it'll be, yeah, it was okay. I'm probably not going to rewatch it. I'll rewatch moments from 1, 3, and 5, and probably 6. Skip 2 and 4.
Yeah, 4's my least favorite.
Same here. So I just really am kind of sad still a little bit. Not overly sad. Like last week I was really sad. This bumped it up a bit, you know? It got me excited again for the show, but some inconsistencies when it comes to logic, like you guys were talking about with things that are like, really? Okay, but how does that work? And also storylines that should be more emotionally impacting, but feel like they're just there to be like, hey, look, here's a sad moment. Hey, look, here's an emotional moment for Obi-Wan to not give up. I don't feel it though. Leia being the same sassy girl we always known and love when she's an adult. But the reason why I love her is because they actually explored her character. And here's the thing. We already know her, so they don't really need to do that, you know? Like, it's not their job to be like, let's explore her more in this. We've, you know, like how you said, we already know Luke's going to be fine. With her, we already know Leia. We already love her. This is just her as a kid. I just don't find it entertaining. I find it annoying. I don't want to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi plus Leia getting captured. So that's why for me, overall, the show's just kind of okay. Like, it's just an okay show, and that kind of sucks, personally, for me.
I'm kind of close to that, too. I think my episode favorite count goes 1, 5, 3, 2, 4. I really liked kind of the slow approach to them revealing what's happened with Ben Kenobi. I do still kind of wish they took the different route and didn't just make him Luke again. You know?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have... It'd be nice to leave a Jedi for a little bit and come back and have them actually still be like using the Force and believing in good and not thinking everything is meaningless. It'd be a nice change of pace. But I don't know. How you feeling, Rich?
My rankings of the episodes were actually literally the exact, like the same as yours, Tim.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For the exact same reasons, you know, I love that how they started off. It reminds me of, you know, for me, it's like very nostalgic. And you know, and then this episode, I got a lot of the payoffs of like how I thought things were going to happen. It was nice to see, you know, an incredibly strong Vader, not just like in like the Force Unleashed game or something like that, but like we're actually able to see him in like real media, in an actual way, not just in a hallway slicing dudes up, which is like really awesome and one of the best scenes with Vader of all time. But you know, to be able to see him do that, to like just force block like lightsabers, like I'm just gonna snatch this from you, I'm gonna like snap it in half, like, you know, I'm gonna play
and then
play
throw
around
you
with
the
it.
other half because you don't stand a chance.
Right, exactly. You know, this is just like not even technically a formality. It's just like I'm playing with my food in a way, just so you know that like you never had a chance. I really was just playing you. So you know, it's been nice to see like Vader like do Vader things, like be more than just imposing, but to be like, you know, very strategic, and playing a very, very long con. So, you know, that was nice. I like, you know, kind of the faster pace, kind of thing, which was an energy that I liked in, you know, episode 9. Again, with that, I was hoping that they weren't going to do it sloppily. I felt like they kind of did it sloppily in this episode, the same way that they did in episode 9. I was a bit more optimistic, but it kind of was what it was. Episode, 3. It was great seeing the duel. It was great seeing Obi-Wan on the back foot, and losing in like a very like real and substantial way. So that was nice. 2 and 4 are like completely forgettable to me. The only reason why I remember 4 is just because of how bad it was. So, I don't know whether to rank that the lowest or to make it the second lowest. But yeah, so exact same scores for me. Yeah.
The pacing is fast, and to me, I think what's weird about that, honestly, is Anakin's on the back foot in episode 3. He survives. He goes in the healing tank, comes out of it, and when he comes out of that tank, he's like almost back up to form. Like, he comes out of that tank, and later that episode, he's busting out the saber, taking out troopers, and now he's almost become like a leader again in a really short amount of time. So it's funky pacing. It's the show is almost, it's close. I don't think it's quite there, but it's almost really close to actually playing in real time. Like, we're not skipping a lot of time at all, and he's becoming very competent and very strong again in real time, basically. So, well, one left, supposedly. Allegedly, maybe?
Right.
Hey, we will find out next week. They could be like, Obi-Wan will return in episode 4, A New Hope. Or that would be hilarious if they did that.
Would be really funny if they did that.
I'd be like, screw you guys, but okay. I in a weird way, even though I still feel like they need more episodes to complete this, I feel like they can end it by next week. I really do, after watching this episode. But I still really wish that they fleshed out things like Reva, and rather than just doing a quick flashback and her being like, I'm sad. Okay, let me just cut this door. I need more than that to get, and it was cool, but it was like, okay then. But until next week, hopefully it has a solid ending. And guys, thank you so much for being here and watching our reaction review of episode 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with all your friends and family. And most importantly, do not forget to be blessed.